Sir Christopher Black.
Number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I would congratulate the honourable gentleman on his knighthood in the New Year's Honours List. Mr. Speaker, we remain committed to working with the Welsh Government on the delivery of investment zones for Wales. This is alongside the Free Ports programme, which will facilitate growth and innovation through benefits like tax reliefs for businesses.
Well, that's all very well, but the government has basically completely binned its investment zone policy. I've had a letter from a government minister saying it's all being refocused. It's not about housing and planning anymore. It's about productivity, improving growth and job creation, but there are no details available. All the bids have been binned. So isn't this just further evidence that we don't have a government in this country anymore? We've just got a bunch of rapscallions squatting in ministerial offices.
I can't agree with him on those comments. As he will know, many elements of the policy concerned are devolved in Wales, and therefore discussions continue with Welsh Government on those aspects. And I would highlight to him there are 5,400 similar zones in other parts of the world, and we must deliver growth for Britain in a similar fashion.
Chair of the committee, Stephen Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I echo the Minister's congratulations to the member for Rhondda on his knighthood. One of the lessons of industrial policy over the last 30 years in Wales, certainly when you look at the number of failed food parks, science parks, technology parks, is that using taxpayers' money on its own does not create economic activity out of thin air. So does the Minister agree with me that whatever interventions we make or Welsh Government make has to work with the grain of the private sector? And to that end, does he recognise that the overriding strength of the Celtic Freeport bid is that it does work with real projects, real industry to deliver floating offshore wind in the Celtic Sea?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend is a strong campaigner for the offshore wind possibilities in South West Wales. He will know that there are decisions ongoing in terms of free ports awarding, with at least one due in Wales and an announcement to be made shortly.
Number 5, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the spending review period, the UK Government is providing the Welsh Government with 20% more funding per person than equivalent UK Government spending in other parts of the UK. And as a result of the autumn statement, Welsh Government funding is increasing by around £1.2 billion over the next 2 years. This is on top of the additional £2.5 billion a year average over the 3-year spending review.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well, the UK Government Shared Prosperity Fund shortchanges Wales by £1 billion over 3 years, even though the Secretary of State and his predecessors repeatedly promised that Wales would receive not a penny less to replace EU funds. Those funds were used by Welsh Government to deliver 5,000 apprenticeships a year. So why is the Minister now letting down young people in Wales like this?
Well, the Honourable Lady, in fact, will know that the Shared Prosperity Fund is extremely generous to Wales and does replace all of that money that was coming from the European Union. There have been some fantastic announcements in recent weeks as to how the fund will progress. She will also know an array of other funding schemes through UK Government, including the Growth Deal, and I do hope to be in her constituency in early February for the groundbreaking milestone event for Pentre Awel, and I hope she may be able to join me at that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Despite the Welsh Government receiving the largest devolution funding settlement, it has the worst performing Labour-run NHS. Instead of spending on what matters, it plans to spend £32 million on a 20-mile-an-hour blanket speed policy. Such a policy will also cost the economy £4.5 billion. So would my honourable friend agree with me and 94% of my survey constituents to say this is yet another example of a Labour waste of money?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think my honourable friend is quite right. This policy is not a good way to spend money, and it's in fact not deliverable either. And in terms of the NHS, as an NHS GP working in North East Wales, I can tell her that the delivery of NHS services is shocking in many senses, and we need Welsh Government to improve their performance drastically.
Shadow Minister Gerald Jones.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As my honourable friend Fortnelli has just reminded the House, the Secretary of State, Minister and his predecessors repeatedly promised that Wales would receive not a penny less to replace EU structural funds to Wales. Not only has he failed to deliver that promise, record inflation his government is presiding over has resulted in a double whammy on the Welsh Government budget. Is the Minister aware that higher education has been shut out of his government's flagship levelling up process and hundreds of jobs are now at risk, possibly as many as 600? So why is his government continually letting down people, including young people, across Wales?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I joined the Secretary of State on a visit to Bangor University last week, and it is absolutely important that we ensure that there are funding mechanisms going forward for higher education. There's an array of schemes through BEIS, and it's important that he and the government work on ensuring that the university sector is supported in Wales.
Jerome Mayo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Roads are a devolved matter, and the decision to close the Menai Suspension Bridge was therefore made by the Welsh Government. Work has commenced on the emergency replacement of brittle hangars dating back to 1938, and this will be followed by additional maintenance works. Welsh Government ministers assure me that, subject to safety assessments, the bridge is due to reopen at the end of this month.
Jerome Mayo.
Mr. Speaker, the Menai Bridge supplies the lifeblood of tourism to Anglesey and the wider region. Given Welsh Labour's negligent handling of the maintenance of this bridge and now its closure for months, how does my right honourable friend think Welsh Labour is doing on their manifesto commitment to rebuild tourism in Wales?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for that question. Quality road infrastructure is vital to unlocking the potential of the North Wales visitor economy. I do believe there are questions to be answered about the specification of the contracted PFI maintenance schedule for the bridge, awarded by the last Labour UK government in 1998, and about the stalled consideration of a third crossing of the Menai Strait. I urge the Welsh Government to publish the findings of the roads review and resume the improvement of the North Wales road network.